to Ask Steve Judd. My name is Sue Brayne, and I am asking Steve today the big question. What is going to happen when Pluto finally moves into Aquarius? And being an Aquarian, I'm agog.
Well, there's so many different ways of answering that question. Firstly, Pluto moved into Aquarius in March of last year and then retrograded back. Now Pluto's moving into Aquarius again this month, and then it will retrograde back around July, August, and then it'll move into Aquarius again around November time permanently. But that's because the Earth goes around the sun a hell of a lot faster than Pluto does. 250 times faster than Pluto does. So when we look out to the sky, although we can't see Pluto, if we could, because we're at different sides of the sun, 6 months apart, we see Pluto as on the cusp, nipping in and out. So that's why it appears to move forward and backward and forward. But viewed from a stationary sun-based perspective, the actual heliocentric movement of Pluto into Aquarius is 19, 20, 21, 22, January 2024. Now.
Yes.
So now, because both you and I have been studying astrology a long, long time. I remember when I started studying astrology, Pluto was in mid-late Libra. And then I saw in the ephemeris that Pluto was going to move into Scorpio along with Saturn. And myself and a lot of other amateur astrologers went, oh, it's going to bring nuclear war. And it's going to bring sexual liberation. And we saw the end of the nuclear missile arms race, and we got HIV.
Yeah, we did.
When Pluto moved into
Sagittarius, STDs as well.
Yes.
I was nursing in those days.
But we got a lot more openness about dealing with sexually transmitted diseases, fortunately.
Yes, there was a lot more liberation around it, or not so
yes.
with grace.
Despite certain very famous politicians trying to clamp the lid on it at that time.
Yes. That dates us.
Half of the course. When Pluto moved into Sagittarius, as astrologers, we said, oh, right, it's the end of religion as we know it. And sure, church attendances went down across the world in every religion massively. But we also saw the sudden, dramatic upturn in religious fundamentalism.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh, yes.
When Pluto moved into Capricorn in 2008, we said, it's the end of the politicians' dreams of world government. And what do we get? We get global corporates.
Yeah.
So when Pluto's now moving into Aquarius, the dream, of course, is that we're heading into a future based on a much greater community network, the end of borders, the end of nationalities, and everyone's going to sort of come together in one huge homogenous tribe, regardless of color of skin, religion,
it's
gender.
Utopia. People have got hooked on
Utopia. What's the chances of that happening?
Not a lot at the moment.
0. Because the vested interests groups, the governments, the banks, the corporates, the big businesses who have had a major say in how we live our lives over the last few hundred years, are not going to want to give up that power. Now, I'm not buying into the conspiracy theories here. I'm too old for conspiracy theories. I don't give many of them any attention at all.
Yeah.
But, you know, when you buy any media you buy these days, it's normally full of horror stories, which are intended to divide us rather than unite us. And it's not deliberate. It's just the way it is. That's the Gestalt. And I do feel
definitely fear being fed into the zeitgeist, into the collective, and I do think the mainstream media is, and we've talked about this before in another
yes.
It's not good.
I've just come off an interview of an American astrological group, and one of the things that came up there was compare now to 15 years ago. just 15 years ago in terms of how many people know not only their sun sign, but also their moon sign and their ascendant. And also how the future of astrology at the moment is being driven by the people under 30.
Yes, it's a young, and especially young women.
Yes, it's really taking off big
And
time.
yeah, and I have to say, Amanda from the Astrology Hub is absolutely almost single-handedly responsible for this. And there's lots of ways of different, but I take my hat off to her. She's
Yeah.
really brought women into the game.
My 24-year-old granddaughter is saying to me, Steve, astrology is, amongst women of my age, astrology is the #2 thing.
Yep. Yeah.
You know?
And they have apps, and well, we've talked about
Yeah,
this.
yeah. So
Day.
this is the start of what I see as the emerging consciousness revolution, and the acceleration of evolution, the acceleration of that movement is gathering pace. And the dinosaurs of the daily hate and the banks and the corporates and the governments of the old style, they know they're going to lose, but they're just trying to milk everything they can out of it whilst they still can. Now, I don't want to sound like a rabid anti-establishment nut job, but
and
and we're going to see this year some startling developments. I'm very fresh from an interview I've just done where we've been looking at specific dates for this year, all the way from the Mars retrograde at the end of the year,
yes.
which is going to oppose Pluto 3 times, to the eclipse in September, which is a really big one, to
Mars is going to be very active in the first part of this year, isn't it?
Yes, the Jupiter-Saturn square at the end of the year for 8 or 9 months, whereas the Jupiter sextile Saturn, which is happening now over the coming 2 or 3 months. Of course, the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction.
That has to be another biggie.
But before that, I consider the 2 most important dates of this year, astrologically speaking, to be A, the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, and B, the fact that on the 19th of January, the Sun will conjunct Pluto at 29 degrees 59 of Capricorn. And then an hour after that conjunction, the Sun will move into Aquarius, followed within 12 hours by Pluto moving into Aquarius. Now, when we see what's actually happening in the world around us, literally in this last 24 hours,
yes,
I've been looking at that Sun-Pluto conjunction for a month or two and thinking that is a surgical strike. That is a laser. That is not a bomb. It is not a sledgehammer. It is a laser. It is sharp, acute. And we're now within a week of this. The military actions of the last 24 hours, whether it's in Ukraine, Palestine, or the Red Sea, is representative of this energy.
Absolutely.
And it's going to get worse before it gets better in this next week. There's going to be a lot of spleen vented, you know.
Lots of, I call it argy-bargy going on between those that are argy-bargying. Yes, it makes me sort of, do you know, honestly, Steve, I woke up this morning and I'm so glad I know astrology because it's really helpful to be prepared. But I woke up feeling insanely sad and going, haven't we grown beyond this yet? And the answer's no. And my hope is that as Pluto moves into Aquarius, I know there's going to be other ordeals we're going to be facing, but maybe we'll start leaving this sort of bear in mind that we've already said that 24 is the death gasp of the old, because this is the lead-in to 25 and 26, which is the big transition. And unconsciously, without being consciously aware, large elements of the powers that be are knowing this. So there's a kind of reaction to that knowledge where they're desperately trying to get things right in the last minute. I think that there was something that I was really impacted by a chap called Greg Braden, who's been talking about the changes, not in an astrological level, but he was talking about it from the prospect of the legends. And he's saying that a lot of the fundamentalists, the religious fundamentalists, are really trying to make this happen, that the fact the legends will come true, that there will be an Agamemnon, that there will be this breakdown in humanity. And I just feel like all of us, we just got to hold this space that we can do this better than that.
Because amongst all the stuff around apocalypse and Armageddon, there's also equally strong legends about revolution and transformation.
Absolutely. But I think we have to walk the burning ground. Do we have to walk the burning ground first? That's I'm interested about that.
More and more, my hope is in the youth. Especially the feminine. That doesn't mean the women. It means the feminine.
Yeah.
Because more and more men, younger men, well, it's going one or two ways. They're either becoming more macho or they're becoming more open to spiritual stuff in a down-to-earth, grounded way.
And they're talking to each other as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, they really are.
It's still a bit blokey, you know, it's in the pub over a few beers, but it's starting.
Well, they're dads now, aren't they? They're stepping up to be fathers, and that's changing a huge amount within the home context as well. I'm not saying all men are, but an awful lot are.
Yes, and it's growing.
Yes.
And that is going to lead eventually to a fundamental change in the way we govern ourselves. The ideas of the old feudalisms are going now forever. Tribalism, as we've understood it, is on its way out. But the notion of us individually and collectively finding our tribe, as in associating with those, regardless of age, color, skin, or nationality.
Very Aquarius.
Well, it's
very Aquarian.
The 12 tribes of Israel. I'm convinced it's a astrological metaphor.
Yes, of course.
You know, you put 12 people with one of each moon sign in a room, it's going to be like World War III. You put 12 people with the moon in Pisces in a room, or the moon in Sagittarius in a room, they're just going to get on.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
And this is why I want it taught in schools. It's natural, it's easy, but there's no money in it for the big boys. So, and there's no control. There's no priests.
But I do believe that this Aquarius sort of vision is from the roots upwards. It's not from the great and the good down. Well, not the great and the good, but you know, the sort of the authority downwards. I think it's going to be got, and where people are saying, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah,
because my community, I want to be able to bring up my family how I want to bring them up.
I know Aquarius symbols the water bearer, but it's an air sign. And Aquarius does have a lot to do with the intellect. But Aquarius, especially in the last 250 years, Aquarius used to be governed by Saturn. And in traditional astrology, it still is. But in modern astrology, which most astrologers practice these days, Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius. Uranus deals with independence, freedom, and liberty. And Aquarius grabs hold of those concepts and goes, I like this.
Yeah, and awakening.
Awakening, yes. And it's not rebellion or anarchy unless Uranus is in a bad mood, or unless Uranus is told you can't, we're not going to let you do that. It is revolution, but it's not revolution in terms of anarchy and violence. It's a kind of it's a hyphen in there. It's re-evolution. It's an upgrade. It's
social evolution, isn't it? That's how I see it, or humanitarian evolution. It is the age of Aquarius. This is
the age of Aquarius. You burst in a song, you're dead. Right? I jest. Seriously though, Pluto moving into Aquarius, Uranus moving into Gemini, Saturn and Neptune together moving into Aries. This is the start of a whole new paradigm.
Yeah.
And what a privilege to be alive at this moment of history. We're going to see the end of we're going to see an end to the apprenticeship of the human experiment. We're all about to move into a much more proactive state of consciousness, where we're all going to become much more individual and much more autonomous and much more collective at the same time.
Yes, and I think people will gather in groups together and actually create their own way of doing things without central government. And I think that's really going to start
Yes.
factoring, because people are
And,
just,
yes.
I don't want to be, I'm not buying up to that.
No, I'm not advocating any type of negativity towards the governmental controls, but I often wonder what would happen if we still had, like, for example, in the UK, a government in Westminster, but instead of, as it is, a government of people elected to do what the people want.
Absolutely.
Instead of political parties, individuals who would discuss what needs to be done for the benefit of a country, make decisions, and then come back to their electorate and say, this is what we think, what do you think?
Yes.
A collective responsibility. That would be amazing.
And it could, I think it could happen, but we've got to, it's this great transition that we're going through from this very sort of hierarchical, earthbound Capricorn into this completely different energy. And it's like being in an aeroplane in heavy turbulence at the moment.
I have not enjoyed Pluto in Capricorn.
Mm.
I didn't. Pluto in Sagittarius was interesting. Pluto in Aquarius would be. I remember thinking 14, 12, 13 years ago, oh, thank God Neptune's out of Aquarius. And now I'm thinking, oh, please, I've had enough of Neptune in Pisces.
Well, it's made us feel unsafe, hasn't it? Because it's broken down the structures and the safety that we all took for granted. You know, Big Daddy out there doing his things, and actually he didn't exist.
And also, it's led to a growing awakening of the environmental traumas that it's too late to change now.
We've got to live with that now too.
It's too late now. It's done.
So, Steve, when do you feel? I mean, there's a huge transition going on, and it is going to be bumpy for a time. Do you feel there's going to be a time where Pluto finally settles into Aquarius and it starts really taking on the themes of Aquarius rather than still being influenced by this great change?
I do, and it's not far away soon.
I hope not.
No, I believe it's not. I can almost give you the date.
Go ahead.
I will give you the date.
All of it. Everybody watching will go, give us the date, Steve.
Somewhere between mid-April and late May 2026.
And why do you say that?
Because that will mark the final transition of Uranus into Gemini, Neptune into Aries, Saturn into Aries, and Pluto into Aquarius. From then on, no more retrogrades back.
Yeah.
And the analogy I've used on this is that this is by then, the fishing lines that we are now throwing into the future, the magnets we are pushing forward, trying to attract the future towards us, will have got results one way or another. By the middle of 2026, we're going to be able to relatively comfortably forecast the long-term future, whether it's in some type of dystopian cyborgian fear project or whether it is in a much more greater community project. But it would be such a waste of our human potential if 95% of us were living under the threat of some type of authoritarian control. It would be such a waste.
Yeah. I mean, I think the most exciting thing, isn't it, that all the outer planets are shifting from water and earth into air and fire. And that's something completely different.
It's never happened before.
Yes.
The
So
only
that
time
is
like this is
a
when
new time.
Pluto was moving into Aquarius last time, was at the time of the French and American revolutions, but Pluto wasn't discovered then. Neither was Neptune. Uranus was only just being discovered. So we had no concept of the bigger picture. Democracy was just starting in France, in America at those times.
Yeah.
So I do feel that this is a test of democracy.
Well, there's
I
going to
do.
be 40 elections around the globe this year.
Oh,
And it's a question of who takes the power. What are we voting for? So I think it's going to be, by the end of this year, I think it's going to be really interesting to see how humanity is connecting with a higher level of consciousness as we vote for people coming into, I mean, it's going to be the same old, isn't it, for a while? But I do think there's some incredible people standing for Parliament who I know personally in the UK, young, dynamic, they're awake because they want to make a difference. They don't want to carry on doing it like it has been before.
this is why I'm
Very
putting my faith in the
exciting.
youth. And that's where people like you and me, we don't tell them what to think or how to behave, but we offer them the benefit of our experience, and we can stand there as mentors.
We're the elders. Yeah.
And the tribal elders. I like that. Yeah. I love being the idea of being. I've got this thing about age, right? Midlife is always around 41 to 44 when you get the Saturn opposition, the Uranus opposition, the Neptune square, the Pluto square.
Yeah.
By the time you're 59 and you're through your second Saturn return, you're at the end of middle age, but you're not old. So I've broken it down. Older.
Yeah.
So I've broken it down. 60 to 68, classic, right? As in the classic era, classic cars. 68 to 76, vintage. 76 to 84, elder, as in tribal elder.
Yes. If you're
84 onwards, you're old.
Yeah. Yes, I agree with that, I have to say. And I do love the idea of being vintage because that's my age group, because I'm now 71. So I just feel like this is my time to turn up and be for the younger generation. And I am a mentor for a lot of young people in my community. And I love that. And as an astrologer, I also work with a lot of young people. And it's so lovely from my point of view to be encouraging, introducing astrology to young people so that they get what they're here to do early without having to do the hard work that my generation
we did. Yes.
Yes, we didn't know.
No, we're trailblazers. If I say we're trailblazers, it sounds very arrogant.
It's true, though.
We were outcast for a long time. We were cast out.
We were.
Simply because of our openness to something different than the norm.
And not very welcomed by our peers either.
No.
No, we weren't.
We threatened their stability just by believing something different.
Yes. A lot of us were bullied. I was bullied at school because I was different, but I didn't know why. I mean, I know why now, obviously, but I didn't know that my destiny was this, because why would I know? But it's lovely introducing young people to consider their personal destiny so they get it really early on, and then now that they can contribute. And also going into Aquarius, what does that mean for them, and how can they contribute a really new way of feeling and thinking and communicating with each other?
So by the time Pluto leaves Aquarius and moves into Pisces, the finale of Pluto in Aquarius will be
it's 36, isn't it?
20 years.
Yeah.
20 years. January 2044.
2044.
You'll be 91.
I won't be here.
Oh, blimey, I'll be 88, 89.
Yeah.
Hope
And I
I'm not.
love that idea of it, Pluto and Aquarius in my own sun sign is going to see me out. I love that.
Yeah, and also when I first about an hour ago, I was talking to someone else, and I started thinking about Pluto in Pisces. Ooh, I don't like that.
We won't have to do it. It's the younger lot can do that lot.
Yeah, but then you get the younger ones in their 20s, they'll be thinking, okay, so I'll be 40 when Pluto moves into Pisces. I'll be 65 when Pluto moves into Aries. Ooh, that's exciting.
Yeah, that's going to be woo.
That's when we literally
Yes.
go
Orbit.
out there.
Yeah, bring on the extraterrestrials. I think that's when it'll all start happening, won't
We'd
it?
have worked out how to travel very, very fast by
Yes.
then.
I think by space will be all very much part of our reality. Steve, I'm just conscious of time. So is there
Yes,
anything else that you would like to say? Because I feel like we've been a bit rambly today, but I don't think that matters.
that doesn't matter. Look, yeah, Pluto's moving into Aquarius. The thing about this is, if everything else in human awareness, consciousness, history, we can affect things. You cannot affect the movement of the planets, right? We are not subject to them, but we interact with them. And if we're sensible, we relate to them. Pluto is now changing sign for the first time in 15 years, 16 years. It's a once in a lifetime occasion for many people. This is the start of a whole new adventure. And the ways in which we put out our energy and our thoughts over the next couple of weeks are going to go a long way towards affecting the rest of this year and beyond. So particularly around the 19th, 20th of January, please think good thoughts.
Just to say, I'm holding a ritual for a group of people, a particularly group of women, and we're going to be tuning in to what that means for us individually. So I would encourage people to light candles, do rituals, come together.
At night, in the dark, at night, because I am more and more now beginning to realize that Pluto is as much the dark feminine
Oh, right.
as anything else. And the dark feminine scares the crap out of a lot of men. But actually, it's a really empowered, solid archetype. And we need it.
We
We
need
need
the dark, the
power-filled
deep
women.
magic, don't we? And she's the magic. It's that
Yes.
the female deep magic.
We need power-filled women on
Yeah.
our planet at this time.
Okay. Anything
Well,
else that you'd just like to say?
no, that'll do.
That'll
That's
do.
the way to leave.
Okie dokie. So listen, everybody, happy Pluto moving into Aquarius.
Indeed.
Whoa.
And we'll catch up with you very, very soon.
We will. See you.